therapist, and you might know me on Instagram. My handle is Therapy for Women. I am the author of 2 books. One is called Not Drinking Tonight, a guide to creating a sober life you love. And the workbook is actually coming out on January 10th, 2023. And it is a completely independent resource. Also more geared towards clinicians that will help you, if you're a clinician, help your clients explore their relationship with alcohol as well. And I'm really excited to be here chatting with you today because I'm going to talk about boundary setting. Boundaries are a really important topic, but especially during the holidays, they're something that can be really challenging and tough, especially if you're navigating that with family. So I'm excited to answer your questions and get started. So let's see what the first question we have is. I think it's taking a second to load. There we go. Okay. How do I decline my friend's holiday party without insulting them? Really, really great question. Well, I think the first thing to know about setting boundaries that's important to remember is that we can't always manage someone's reaction to the boundary that we're setting, right? So I would try to come into it without the expectation that you are going to or not going to insult them, because someone's interpretation of whether we decline their party, they may be insulted no matter how nice you are, no matter if you have the perfect reason or the perfect excuse. But one of the best ways to set a boundary is through coming at it compassionately, through saying something like, I really wish that I could come to your party. Thank you so much for the invite. Unfortunately, it's not something that I'm going to be able to make at this time. If you have a specific reason, like why you can't make it, like maybe you have something else going on at the same time, you can definitely share that. But I think the compassion piece is really important rather than just saying no. If they sent you a text or they sent you, an email with the invitation, thanking them for inviting you, telling them how much you enjoy parties with them normally and that you wish you could make it, but you just can't. And knowing that some people might still get offended, unfortunately. We can't control someone else's reactions, but we can be compassionate and take care of ourselves and still set those boundaries during the holidays. All right, let's see what the next question is. How to manage gifting out of guilt. This is a really good question because I think everyone has different expectations about how to gift and whether, what different rules and expectations around gift giving are. And I think it can be really challenging sometimes because we feel like we need to match someone's gift or make sure that we're giving everyone a gift. So if you're someone that is gifting something because you feel guilty about it, I think it's important to remember that when we're setting boundaries, we want to try to take some of the guilt out of it, because the truth is most of us feel guilty whether we set a boundary or whether we don't. Or in this case, it could be we feel guilty whether we're giving that gift or we're not giving that gift. So I think trying to take some pressure off yourself, taking out some of those expectations, and instead having a clear conversation with someone about what their expectations are with gifts and trying to set some boundaries or parameters so that they're agreed upon before you give a gift, and then try to go from there. All right, let's see what the next question is. Okay. My mother-in-law oversteps on the traditions I'm trying to establish with my children. How do I politely shut this down? This is really, really common and such a good question. So often I think what happens with family dynamics and with boundaries during the holidays, right, is that someone will, like a mother-in-law, another family member will want to create their own traditions, will want to, worry about what's going on, and they may want to create or overstep things with their children. They may want to talk to your kids about topics that you don't feel comfortable with, or give your child a gift that you don't feel comfortable with. So in this case, I would have a conversation separately with your mother-in-law. Again, I think starting with compassion, saying, I really, really appreciate the gift that you were giving, our child, or I understand that you really care about your relationship with my child and your grandchild. And I really, really appreciate starting by highlighting that you know that their intentions are good. This can be a really effective way to set boundaries because often what happens is when we try to set a boundary with someone, they want to tell us that their intentions were good, right? If you say, please don't do this, their rebuttal often is, well, I just wanted to do something nice for you or for your child. So if we can kind of get ahead of that and say, hey, I know you were trying to do something really nice. I know you care about your relationship with your grandchild. And then using the word and instead of but is such an important skill that you can practice with boundaries. It's such a good tip because often when we use the word but, people forget the second thing that you say. They forget the first thing that you said and they're left with the second thing that you said. So they don't even remember that you acknowledge them, that you said that you love them, that you said that you know they have good intentions. They just remember you saying, don't do this. Or if we use the word and, it makes both of those statements equal. It helps people not feel like the first statement is invalid. So in this case, saying something like to your mother-in-law, I know that you really love my kids. I know that you want to have this special time with them, or you have really great intentions. And at the same time, I just don't feel comfortable with you doing this or doing that. And if you can kind of bookmark it that way, it's a really effective way that can lead people to feel more understood, more heard, and it feels less harsh to them. Okay, let's see what the next question is. My goal is to not drink alcohol this weekend, but it's my usual coping strategy. What are some healthier strategies? Really, really great question. And there's a lot of drinking that's going on this time of year, I think that often if we feel awkward at a party or a family event, alcohol is a really easy thing to just pick up and kind of use to, deal with some of the tension or the awkwardness that's going on. So you're not alone with that. It's great that you have this goal set out because that's one of the most important things, I think, is thinking about the goal before you go into the weekend. And really having that goal set rather than just being like, I would like to not drink this weekend, but we'll see, right? What happens. Having that goal and coming up with a plan beforehand. So you ask, what are some other coping skills that you can do? So here we go. Number one, you want to consider going to the event or party like 15 minutes later than you normally would. Often those first 10 to 15 minutes of any social gathering are a little awkward. People are kind of settling in, figuring out the lay of the land, and people tend to calm down a little bit and there's a little bit less awkwardness often once people get a drink in their hand. Since you don't want to do that, if you want to actually come in a little bit later, once people have settled, it'll be a little bit easier for you to do that. It also, if people already have a drink in their hand and they're socializing and kind of in the groove, it'll be less likely that people will notice that you don't get a drink. You can also bring your own, if you don't really want to draw attention to the fact that you're not drinking, you could bring your own drink. There's a lot of really great, mocktails that exist now or alcohol alternatives. They have alcohol-free wine, alcohol-free beer, things like that you could do. And then people may not even notice that you're not drinking. So that's really, really helpful with that. And the other thing is just in general, a coping strategy. I mean, remember that come up with a plan for if you need to leave early, if you need to take a break, you can go to the bathroom or go for a walk outside, clear your head for a couple minutes so that you kind of can stay centered and remember your goal. But in general, you also are going to want to work on your stress levels throughout the season, throughout the weekend, and think about what can you do to take care of yourself this weekend, even before you end up at that party or gathering. Can you do some mindfulness exercises? Can you, get some really good sleep so that you're feeling a little bit more rested? Can you go for walks or exercise a little bit to help with your mental health? Do some of those coping strategies even before you're at the event so that you are more likely to be in a better headspace when you actually get there and you can stick to your decisions. All right, let's see what the next question is. All right. My partner and I are struggling to conceive. How can I handle the "when are you having kids" questions we always get? Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm so sorry that you guys are struggling with this. It is a really common thing, and it's really unfortunate around the holidays that family or friends often feel the need to ask this question constantly. I wish that and I'm hoping that we're moving more towards people realizing that this is not an appropriate question to ask. I would keep it simple. I would keep it vague and just try to shut down the conversation. You can say a couple different things depending on how you're feeling. You could say, "I'm not interested in talking about this right now." It's kind of vague. It shuts down the conversation a little bit. You could say something like, "We aren't sure, we don't know." Or you could, just kind of give a vague answer about eventually, we don't know yet. Or you could just say, "I don't feel comfortable talking about this topic. Please don't bring it up again." And those are kind of three different ways that you could handle it. Know that unfortunately, what may happen is when you set this boundary, even if you say the third one, which is kind of the stronger boundary example I gave, you may have someone that asks you, "Why don't you want to talk about this?" Or if you say, "We don't know," you could have someone who kind of launched into, "Well, I really think that you need to start trying and you're this age," or, giving some advice or something like that. And that's where I think really, really remembering when you keep it kind of short and sweet, like, "I don't feel like talking about this right now," or "I'm not interested in talking about this." If they ask why, remember that you can say the same thing over and over again. So often we can put this pressure on ourselves that we feel like we need to come up with a better excuse if someone asks us another question about it. But you can say the same thing. You can say, "I don't really want to talk about this right now. What's going on with you?" And they may say, "Well, why don't you want to talk about it?" And you can say, "It's just not something that I feel comfortable talking about right now." And you can try to switch the subject. And they may say, "Why? What's wrong with you? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah." And you can still remain firm and just be like, "It's nothing personal. I just really don't feel comfortable talking about this. It's just not something that I want to talk about. Let's change the subject," and really be clear with that. Or you have a right to say, "Please don't ask me this again. I'm not going to tell you why. I don't feel comfortable, but I would love to talk to you about your kids," or, something else. And that's where you can kind of change that topic. All right. What is my favorite holiday mocktail? Oh, I love this question. Okay. I'm a huge fan of pomegranates. So I really, really love making kind of like a mojito version. There's really great alcohol substitutes that are out on the market that are like dry, and they can just one-to-one replace a liquor. So I like making kind of a mojito with mint, and I love breaking open a cranberry or a pomegranate and muddling it and putting some pomegranate seeds on top, and it looks really, really festive. So yeah, explore different herbs, different fruits, different things like that. And you can really have a lot of fun and be creative with your mocktail recipes. All right. So yeah, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you all so much for asking some questions. And I'm so excited just to share again. If you're a therapist, I have a free event coming up January 10th. It will be a 3-hour live training specifically for therapists that will help clients create a sober life they love. It's based on the workbook that I have that's coming out on the same date. It's completely free. All you need to do is register for that event, and I hope to see some of you all there. All right, so I hope everyone has a great holidays. Thanks for all your questions, and I will see you soon.